to the Feed You podcast, giving you the real scoop on raising your business to new heights. Expert education, inspiration, and motivation to fuel your purpose, your passion, and your profits. Here's your host, Elisa Connor.
Hello, and welcome to the Feed You podcast. I'm Elisa Connor. I'm so grateful to have you here. If this is your first time tuning in, well, this is going to be a doozy of an episode and an introduction for you. And I hope you enjoy it. And if you tune in every week, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to everyone that tunes in from all over the world. And I appreciate you. And I'm really glad you're here. Today's topic is all about your why and evolving your why for your business and your life and for what you do. And we all jump into our business with a reason and a purpose, and it's easy to know what that is when you're first starting, or at least be somewhat aware of it. But then as your business grows and it evolves and you grow and evolve, a lot of times that why changes and we don't even realize that it's changed. And then we wake up one day and we're like, wait a minute, what's happening here? And so I really wanted to address that because I've been talking about it with some friends and colleagues and different people for, I don't know, the last several months, probably last 2, 3, 4 months, because I am going through that transition. And as my oldest is graduating from high school, things in my life are changing. And when I originally started my business, it was for a very different reason than the direction I'm going in now. And I think a lot of times it can be difficult to express that or realize, why you're feeling kind of out of sorts in your business and things aren't going smoothly, and just frustration and kind of being unsettled. Unsettled is the word that is coming to mind. So I wanted to talk you through the evolvement of my why in hopes that it will inspire you to take a look at why, you're doing the things you're doing in your business, and to make sure that they're still in alignment with the direction you're going, not only in your business, but with your life and your ultimate goals and the things that you want to achieve. And so it's timely because I just walked through this really great exercise that I'm going to share with you guys towards the end of this episode. And it was it is an episode that I learned from an industry leader. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you. I'm doing a really cool project right now with some really high level industry leaders, and I'm really excited about it, but I'm not sure how much I can talk about it. So anyway, I'm doing an online program of theirs in order to get up to speed on what they're doing. And this was an exercise that was in that program. And so it was so powerful. I wanted to share it with you. But before we jump into today's episode, let's take a minute and hear from our sponsor. Hey there, Elisa here. I wanted to thank you for a minute for tuning in every week, and I'm hoping that you're listening and learning and getting everything you can out of this podcast. But I'm wondering, do you listen every week and you learn something new and then you just go on about your day and never implement or execute? If you do, if that's you, you're not alone. You're like most typical business owners. You don't have time to figure out this marketing stuff on your own, which is why I'm creating the Simple Marketing System program to walk you through everything we talk about in this podcast and hold your hand as you go along. People pay thousands of dollars to work with me on a one-on-one basis, but I wanted to be able to offer this to everyone at a price that is amenable to everyone's budget. Since you're a podcast listener, you're getting to hear about this program first. I'm launching it in January, and I'm going to teach you all the things that we learned in this podcast, including how to attract the people you want to work with, not just everyone. How to create your first free download with messaging that converts people into your email list and then into customers. We're going to learn how to write headlines that incite people to take action and move those people along your sales funnel so that they start working with you and paying you for what you do. We're going to create a system to track what's working and what's not so you can fix what's not working. We're going to automate your marketing process and your customer attraction process so that you can save time, money, and most of all, frustration. We're also going to understand the power of and the ROI of email marketing, and we're going to begin growing your email list because it is the best way to grow your business. And last but not least, I'm going to show you how to get more customers for your marketing dollars and save you time, money, and get you more leads and more sales. If this sounds interesting to you, I'd love to have you join my waitlist. You can do that over at alisaconner.com/SMS waitlist. SMS stands for Simple Marketing System. And I'll put the link in the show notes. I hope to see you inside. So let's jump into this topic of evolving your why. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of my business story just because I think that it's going to help you kind of reflect on all of the different things you've done in your life. So for those of you that don't know, I started my working career after college in corporate. And I had the opportunity to work for a startup, which then got bought by a really big company. And things monumentally shifted once we got purchased by that really big corporation. And I didn't realize it until years later that was really the shift in me enjoying going to work and working with the people that I work with, and then ultimately clawing my way out, for lack of a better term. And when I decided to leave, I managed a team of like 3 or 4, I think it was 4 people when I left, 3 or 4 people. And I had perfected processes and different things to enable my team to take care of things so that I could be out on the road and be training and working with one of our reseller partners to to market a new program of theirs out on the road with our resellers. So, I didn't spend a lot of time in the office, but when I was there, it became, and I don't know if it was because I didn't spend a lot of time in the office, but when I came back, it was so obvious to me. The writing was on the wall that the company that I had worked in and grown and loved was about to be eliminated, that this corporation had pretty much eaten up everything that it needed and was getting ready to just do massive layoffs. And so I got my ducks in a row, and I knew that I didn't really like the feeling of having someone else control my future. And so I could see the writing on the wall, and I knew that it was time for me to move on and do something different. And so I started pursuing the avenue of a completely different direction, and going into becoming a personal chef. Like, what did I need to do? How did I need to market that? How did I need to get in front of people? What kind of training? All of the components around becoming a personal chef. Ultimately, I left my position and I told my team, before I left, I said, you guys need to be looking for jobs. And I just left it at that. I just said, and there were a couple other people, and these were younger people. Like, when I worked there, I was in my early to mid 20s. And so some of the people that I had brought in had just graduated from college. This was their first job. They have student loans. And so I have a tendency to want to protect people. And in that protective mode, I just said quite honestly to them, you guys, it is going to be in your best interest to start looking for a job. I'm not saying that because I know anything you don't know, other than intuitively I knew. And so I left and I started my personal chef business, and I had clients and it was going really well. And then I went back about 6 months later to have lunch with some friends. And I had one of those employees come up to me, and I knew that the transitions had already started. I had been, in contact with several of those people, including people that were on my team. And I had one of the employees come up to me, and he said to me, "How did you know?" And I just looked at him and I said, the writing was on the wall. And massive layoffs were happening. Entire teams were going and being eliminated. And it was just really not a fun place to be. And I was so grateful that I had had the intuition, and I followed my intuition to exit before the big changes happened. And so my why at that point was very simply, I didn't want other people to be controlling my life. I didn't want other people to have control over the way I brought money in, the way that I did my job. And I have a very independent spirit. My mom will still tell you, she's like, you were a terror as a child, because my answer was either no or why growing up. And so I've always had a very independent spirit, but I've also been very intuitive. And I come by that honestly. And so when I started that business, I had a very specific purpose, which was to take back control of my livelihood and of my life and of my energy. And I knew that I wanted to go do something that I was passionate about, as well as build something that I was in control of. Like if I didn't have clients, it was because I didn't do the work. And so that continued down my path, and I have mentioned on this podcast that I have done multiple MLMs in my lifetime, and each of those had a specific purpose too, and a specific reason that I got involved with those. So when I was a personal chef, I also had a personal chef a pampered chef business, and part of that, the brain power behind that was that people that were coming to personal pampered chef parties wanted the tools, but a lot of times they wouldn't use those tools and they still wouldn't cook. And so they still needed me as a personal chef. And so a couple of things around that. One was that, I had access to the tools, I had access to new recipes, I had access to a new audience. But ultimately, all of those businesses led me to the opportunity to be able to stay home with my kids. And two more businesses past that, when I had continued to evolve not only my food business, but then moved into marketing, ultimately my why behind all of those businesses was to, one, have control of my life and my livelihood, but two, to be able to stay home and be present with my kids. It was really important to me that if I was bringing humans into the world, that I was available to mold them and shape them into the best human beings possible. My kids are not perfect, but they are, and you will hear me say this many, many times, they are incredible human beings. And I am so very blessed that I get to be part of their life and that I get to be their mom. And I really attribute that part of that just to being available to them when they need me. And so I'm really grateful that I have had that opportunity and that I have sought that out as a piece of why I have created any type of business that I've created. And that ultimately has been the big why behind all of my entrepreneurial endeavors for the last, 10 years. And so as my children get older, and now they're all in high school, and yeah, they still need me, but not at the level that they needed me before, where I was going to field trips or I was helping in the classroom and I could fit work in between. Now work has turned into, and my business has turned into more of a full-time affair. They're at school all day and they don't need me to be, they need food and they need a wallet because they have a lot of monetary needs right now. And they, once in a while need a ride home or something. But ultimately, they don't need me to help them do homework. In fact, they get kind of annoyed when I harp on them about not getting it done. And I'm like, all right, writing the fine line between you need to be responsible and the school's calling me because you have horrible grades. So, that being said, I've had to start evolving my why. And I've also had to evolve my business over time. And so the why of how I work with people and the why of what their needs have also evolved my business. So when I started this current company, my original company was very immersed in social media, teaching people how to use social media, teaching people what platforms to be on, teaching them to understand that social media could grow their business. Now, mind you, this is almost 12 years ago. And so social media was a very new platform. People were just starting to understand Facebook. There were not, I think it was Facebook and Twitter and maybe YouTube. But there were not all these platforms. There were not all these options on those platforms. And so I really was one of the forerunners in trying to educate people around social media and the power of social media for small business. Then that evolved to understanding that people also needed to have a brand created around their business, because here they are on social media, but they don't have any way for people to connect with them. They don't have any way to stand out And they didn't have a home base. And so along with that, I realized that people also needed a website. They needed a home base for this social media platform. So they're, gaining some traction in social media, but they still need some place to send everybody to be able to work with them. And so I started to build websites, and I still do that in my business today, and then also help people create the brand foundation that they were missing, because a lot of these people would come out of corporate or have just start their business, and they had no real business knowledge about what it took to build a foundation for their business. And so they didn't have any messaging, they didn't have a mission statement, they don't have a vision, they didn't have any of the components that they really needed that would stay with them and stick with their business along the way. And so I tell you this not to toot my own horn, but to let you know that not only does your why evolve about why you started your business, but your business will also go through transition. And sometimes you wake up as a business owner or an entrepreneur and you're like looking at your business and you're all, when did this happen? And that is not a good feeling to have, where you wake up and you're not recognizing what you're doing in your business, where you're spending your time, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're worn out, you're exhausted, you're not getting the things that you had intended when you started. I know a lot of business owners, they go from this belief system of, oh, if I have my own business, I have to work 18 hours a day. And I did that as well. Like, I had a sandwich business and I was working 18 hours a day by the time I was doing my own marketing and advertising and cooking and delivering and all of the things that I needed to do. And I was like, this is insane. What am I doing? Like, I could go get a job somewhere else and make the same amount of money and work half the hours. And so being in alignment and being aware of what that why is really important as you dig into your business. Now, does that mean you're never going to have an 18-hour day? Absolutely not. You will have long days as an entrepreneur, especially when you're getting started. However, becoming aware of that time that you're investing and the energy that you're investing in that business and how it's making you feel is going to be the indicator of whether or not you're in alignment with your why. And so a lot of times, we'll start going with our business and our plan and the direction we want to go in, and we start with an audience in mind. And so, just as my business has evolved, you probably have a target audience. And if you haven't taken a look at that audience to see if they're really engaged with you and they're really moving forward with you and they are really, like, you're really targeted in on them and you're getting traction, that could be a big hiccup into why you're feeling out of alignment with your why, because your audience has a lot to do with your why. Like, whether or not your big why is like you want to stay home with your kids, if you're like right now, my why is shifting to, no, I don't really need to be home with my kids anymore. However, my bigger why is I want to be able to serve people. And so I want to be able to serve specific people. And I do a lot of education and training to small business owners. And I do a lot of research to make sure that what I'm sharing with you all, not only in this podcast, but in the other areas of my business, so that it is valuable to you. Because the last thing I want to do is put a lot of effort and time into creating content that is not useful to my audience. And I find that as your business evolves and you're wanting to have greater impact, you need to be more aware of your audience. And I find this often as I'm working on different contracting and consulting projects. I have the opportunity to be introduced to different business models and different businesses. And each of those business models has the opportunity to fine tune who they're talking to. And I'm still fine tuning, could talk to any of my really good friends or accountability partners and they'd be like, oh my gosh, this girl and her audience, it's just enough to to give them all a headache, I'm sure. But if you're not constantly fine tuning that audience and figuring out who it is and how you help them and what you do for them and getting really clear about that, it can be really hard to get traction. And so as you're evolving your why, your audience evolvement will also, it just happens naturally. Because the more invested you become in your why, the more invested you become in your audience, because it's helping you achieve your why. And so, one of my big whys behind my business is that I want to be able to have larger impact. So, making more money and having a larger profit margin enables me to create a bigger impact in my community and beyond. And so one of the fundraisers that I invested in last year that I just learned about was I guess it's a nonprofit. It's not a company, a nonprofit called Village Impact. And what they do is they build schools in Kenya for displaced families. So these people have been displaced out of their community because of political unrest, and they basically are told, pack up your bags and take what you can, and you need to leave now or you're going to get killed. And so then they move them out into the middle of a field, and there's no stores, there's no water, there's no schools, there's no churches, there's nothing. And so I was really passionate about that. So as I start to build and grow my company, I have that in the back of my mind, is that not only that charity, but there are charities locally. Homelessness is a big cause of mine that I really, it really is deep in my heart to want to help the homeless community. And so I have these things that I really want to be able to offer assistance to, so that I can have bigger impact, not only in business, but in my life. And so those have become my why. And it's not that my children are not my why, they still are, but they need less attention. And so as I evolve and I have bigger goals, that, they are still important, of course, but I have bigger and bolder purpose behind my business, I guess is what I'm saying. And so when I'm talking about your audience evolving with your why, I want you to think about what their why is. Because if you can get into, why they're doing business, it's much easier for you to position yourself as a resource and enable you to connect to them. And so a lot of times I'll work with, I kind of have ADD in this episode today, so excuse me, it's Monday when I'm recording this. But if you're in a very competitive marketplace, so say you're a realtor, or the one that comes to mind is financial planners. So when you're looking at financial planners, they very rarely get really in tune with their audience. And so, or if they do, it's almost like they're too late. And so now, they've been really focused on the baby boomers for years. Like financial planners have always been, because these are the people that were retiring and they have money and da-da-da-da. And then they realize that, like, my generation, Gen X, is this tiny little generation that most people just forget about. Like, we're pretty much invisible. That's kind of the joke. And then the millennials. Well, the millennials are like, the last thing they're thinking about is retirement, because they're paying for babies and, bills and college debt and all these things. They're like, retirement is not on my mind. And if it is, it's because they're in a corporate position and they are putting money into their 401k that way. But when I've met with the financial planners that are kind of trying to pull themselves away from the curve, they think that they have this new idea of like, oh, we're going to help people outlive, we're going to make sure people don't outlive their money. And it's sort of comical to me, because I talk to multiple financial planners on a regular basis, and they think this is they're the only ones that have this idea of that we're going to help everybody so that they don't outlive their money. I'm like, do you know how many financial planners I talk to on a regular basis that have this exact same message? In fact, there's probably 3 in this room. And it's just sort of funny to me, because they have not evolved with their customers. And if you don't evolve with your customers, it's really hard to evolve your why. Because let's face it, if you don't have customers, you can't get to your why. It's pretty simple. So, a great way to do this is to kind of look over your business and see, where you started, what has changed, not only as far as your purpose and where you're going, but also like with who you want to work with. And I guess I am spending a lot of time talking about audience, because a lot of times the way we have impact in our business, in fact, I would say the most recognizable way we have impact in our business, which is why it's so correlated to our purpose, and our bigger why, is our audience. Because if we're not having some sort of impact with them, if we're not in some way affecting their lives, are we really reaching our purpose? Because ultimately, the purpose of our business is to serve and help others, regardless of product or service. You're wanting to, in some way, make your audience's life better so that you can get to your bigger purpose. And so I want to make you aware that it's, if your audience shifts as you shift and your business shifts, that's perfectly normal. In fact, it's expected. And everything in life is cyclical. I look at my kids, and my kids are, I would say, they're fairly typical teenagers, but my kids are old souls. And I say that, and some of you will understand of that, and some of you will not. But what I mean is that this isn't their first time around the block. And so when I look at my oldest son, who is definitely an old soul, I knew that the minute that he was born, and it has continued to come to fruition all through his life. But, most kids are listening to, my kids are like, I don't listen to mumble rap. I don't even know what mumble rap is, but don't tell them. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's cool. Because, when you're the mom, you just try to play it off. But my kids are into all of the music that I grew up with when I was in high school, which is so ironic to me because, they're listening to music like Riley really likes Tom Petty and Sting and the Police. And so I was like, oh yeah, that was totally what I was listening to. Like maybe not high school, but right before high school. And it's just sort of funny to me. I'm like, yeah, because this has already made one pass through and now it's making another pass through. And a lot of his friends are into the same thing. And you hear it even on the radio. You have new artists that are remaking all the music that we grew up with. And I go to the mall and I'm appalled because, and I do not go to the mall. I do not like shopping, but I look at clothing right now. I'm like, please stop repeating the 80s because it was terrible then. And everybody's like wearing their skinny leggings and their boots and it's like a flashback of my high school wardrobe. And I think that's fine if you're a teenager, but I'm looking at some of the clothes, like even that my mom wore, and just I'm like, I do not want to buy a thing right now because I frankly just want a new generation of clothing, not a remake of the 80s. But what it's telling me in the position of business and marketing is that everything is cyclical, whether it's clothing or music or business or customers, everything will shift and it will come back around. And my mom and I will talk about things like, now everybody's really into thrifting and recycling and reusing. And I'm like, yeah, but like that's how I grew up. Like my grandparents recycled and reused everything. And then we got into this mode of throwing everything away and now we're coming back. And so looking at your audience as also cyclical, like you may go through and either shift and grow and change your business, and your audience will either stay with you or it will evolve and change and grow as well, and you'll attract new people, or you may bring some of the other people along with you. But just being aware of that, because that's how you're making your impact ultimately, and thinking about what that looks like. So there's a couple more things I want to cover, and then I'm going to wrap this episode up. But one was I promised you this exercise, and I'm sure you have probably been exposed to this exercise in one way or another, but I really want you to take out a piece of paper and, well, maybe not if you're driving. Like wait till you pull over, pause, and then come back. But take a few minutes and walk yourself through this exercise. And it's really easy. You don't have to take notes or anything right now, but the exercise is basically 7 levels of your why. That's what I'm going to name it. It's called something else, but that's what I'm going to call it. So I'm sure you have done a similar exercise, but you start with a question of, why do I want to be successful in my business, in life, in whatever? And you answer that question. So for me, the answer is I want to be able to help people evolve their business, grow financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and offer that through education and resources that enable them to have that growth so that they can have a bigger impact on the world, and as can I. And so then you would take the next piece of that would be like, okay, so why do you want to do that? And then you would answer that. And then whatever that answer is like, why do you want to do that? And so what it really does is get really clear by the time you do this 7 times to what is really driving you and your passion and your business. And I don't want to dig into that too much today because I want you guys to go and do the exercise, and then I want you to come over to Facebook and the Facebook group and report to me like and I'm gonna do a live on that over there this week so you guys can get like the inside scoop. I'm gonna walk through it one more time, and I'm just letting you know there might be crying. There's like usually crying when you do this. I'm just telling you because you're doing some deep digging. And so if you feel a little out of touch with your why, or you feel like it's evolving and you don't know where it is right now and you're kind of in la la land, this is a really great exercise. So I'm going to walk you through that over there this week, on Wednesday of this week. Of this week. So just know that that's coming, and then come and join me over there. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is that as you're going through a shift and a personal shift in your business and your life, and you're evolving your audience and your why and your business and all of those things, and it can be anything that sets it off, like whether you're going in a new direction. But anytime there is change like that, I want you to offer grace to yourself and compassion, because change is hard, and it doesn't matter if it is forced change or chosen change. It's uncomfortable, and it's messy, and it's ugly, and it is unsure, and there's uncertainty, and it's just not easy. Like, it's not an easy thing to go through. And even though, we know nothing is certain in life, nothing stays the same, it is still not an easy road to walk. And so give yourself grace and have compassion for yourself and gratitude that you are having the courage to go forward and make this shift and make this change. And know that whenever you're willing to take that step and to grow, and you're kind of splashing through that time of uncertainty and you're not really knowing where you're going, that you can't get to where you're going without kind of making a mess, without kind of figuring that out and going through the messy part, because ultimately the reward is you get to where you want to be. And you may not even figure it out until you're on the other side. Like as I'm figuring out my why and the shift of my why, oh my gosh, I've told you many times already that this is a year of crying. And so there's a lot of crying because my kids are growing up, and it's for me, it's grieving that time has passed. And it's not that they're going away. It's just that they won't ever be little again. And I know that sounds so trite, but you know that as they're growing up. But then you hit this point in the relationship of, who you are, who you were, and who you're going to be. And becoming aware of that and realizing that is a process in your life, and that, you have been this for a long time, and now you're transitioning to be something different. It's not easy. It's not an easy process to go through. And so I would just encourage you, as I am encouraging myself, to just be gentle with yourself and to have compassion and to love yourself a little stronger through the process. But ultimately, you're here for a reason. You started your business for a reason. There's a purpose behind what you do. And the bigger purpose, whether you see it or not, is that the world needs you. The world needs what you're offering. The world needs what you're sharing. The world needs what you're willing to help it with. And so if you get lost in the transition process, take a few breaths, give gratitude for where you are and where you've been, and even for where you're going. So that's what I have for you this week. I hope that it's been inspirational and not too jiggity jaggedy, because it feels like it's been jiggity jaggedy to me. Oh, if you can't laugh at yourself, what can you laugh at? So next week, we are going to jump more into business tactics. We're going to talk about growing your email list with fabulous content and giving you some tips on that. So join me here. And in the meantime, come and join me over in the Facebook group or Facebook page. Small Business Builders is the Facebook group, and Elisa M. Connor is my Facebook page. And I would love to hear from you and know how this episode has impacted you. In the meantime, have a wonderful week, and I will see you soon. Take care. Just a quick reminder that the SMS waitlist is now open. If you're interested in joining that course where I walk you through every step of your marketing so you can attract more clients and convert them into customers, go check it out. ElisaConnor.com/SMS waitlist. See you soon.